something like that. I love that one too.
And what Deanna said, it's your duty in life to save your dream.
Yes. Hi, kids.
Okay.
I'm off.
Oh, are we here?
I'm here. Where are you?
I don't know.
Where's your video?
Can you get my video on? I have no idea what I'm doing. Why, do we have an audience out there?
We currently have 16 people. 17.
Right now?
Right now.
This is so creepy. What if I dug in my nose or something creepy? I'm sorry, but I had no idea that. What? I had no idea that we were on. So
We are live. We are live on Facebook with the whole, we have 19 people.
it's amazing.
We have Patricia, Gloria, Anna Mae, JD, Mark Cook, Heather, Terry.
I believe Patricia tried to contact me. Try and call me again later tonight, Patricia. Hey, baby. I'm kidding. That's just a joke.
Oh, there we go. Roz is here. You know, people are here. Hey, nice mug.
Cheryl took a quote from my mouth. I never say from me anymore. It's my mouth that does it.
From your mouth, yes.
And it was, don't disappoint yourself, reappoint yourself. I said that to her one day. I think I was giving her hell, actually. Don't
Probably.
disappoint yourself, reappoint yourself. Reappoint that child. Reappoint that Tannic to bed. And
There's
reappoint
two of
that-
them.
Okay, people don't want to see the child beat up mom online show, and people don't want to hear me talk about it. Very nice appearance, Danielka.
Yes,
All right.
very sweet.
While you're being distracted by two children who love you very much, I will say that we don't rehearse, we don't write scripts, we have a basic layout, we go for it. And I watched our last week talk.
Hey, let's introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
I'm Aaron.
We are unpredictable. I am. You're predictable.
I'm pretty
You've
predictable.
become so, but not that predictable. You're still a feisty one.
Feisty doesn't mean unpredictable.
I can't get away with anything with you.
It's true.
It was beautiful, our talk last week. I had to go early. I may have to leave early tonight, but I will get my say in. And I actually, what I'm doing is letting her wrap up and cut her wings so that as I move on to the beaches, Erin can manage and handle the time to heal enterprise that is
The
developing.
enterprise, yes.
Well, it's going to be very enterprising. We have
It's
our
always
workshop
enterprising.
developing, and we have our online. And if I may mention, Elena Busher and I have our We Flow, which is our exercise business, and it's going up on the 22nd.
Cool.
And it's going to be very beautiful. It seems
Yeah.
that people are responding very positively already to universal exercises.
I'm loving that mug. You've got your mug and I've got my water bottle. Look at this. See, we've got
Everything's about children.
everything's
I've
about
always
children.
said it, and
And
now we
community.
live it.
Okay, so we're talking about boundaries.
Tell you what, why don't we start with, can I ramble for a second as usual?
Yes.
Good. Today, I learned a lot about making sure that I'm familiar with everybody around me with a standard test of vulnerability. I totally open to people in absolute honesty. It's a good way to find out where people are at around you. Just
You
remember
always do
that.
that. You
Hey.
always do that. I always do that. But I
I'm
think
saying,
what you're saying is, though, in being heartfully present and vulnerable, you actually get to see where other people are at.
look at you interpret like you were in Africa on a big
Really,
game hunt.
really. That's your correlation?
I was feeling pretty inspired by it,
That's
actually.
a terrible correlation.
I got flipped over a mountain. So what?
Yeah.
I learned today about everything about people today with dealing with people. I learned why I trust myself today. And that is the best thing. That is the best thing you can feel. I
That's
trust
something we
myself.
don't something we don't talk about often, but it's actually really key for boundaries and staying stable, is my core loyalty is to my own stability.
Well said, Aaron. It's funny because no matter what we say now, Aaron and I, it leads to a workshop 3 that we're doing
We should do
about
that.
discipline, stability, and consistency that I've written up here or translated up here that has to be transcribed through your heart there and mine.
Yep.
We're going to put that one to paper. Well, we have started really.
Yeah, we're just got to put the rest of it together.
Yeah, straight.
Anyhow, sorry, you were rambling on a topic?
Yeah, may I?
Yeah, go.
All right.
This is Andrew Louisi, co-owner of Time to Heal.
Oh,
in,
that.
in Rambling Part 2. I'm Erin Capella, other co-owner of Time to Heal.
Another co-rambler at times. And together we are the Ramble Partners who own Time to Heal.
It sounds like cowboys. The Ramble Partner.
Listen, the bottom line is I learned that the truth and absolute truth of humility is allowing your friends to be imperfect. That's all I learned. I think it's a very valuable lesson. I think allowing your friends to be imperfect without grudge holding allows you the privilege of allowing yourself that very same thing.
You said that to me 10 and a half years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What you
Turns out I was
specifically
correct.
said, turns out, what did you actually say? Stop trying so hard to be perfect. People will find you more forgivable.
How did you even remember that?
I remember things. My husband really loves that I
You got to
remember
write that
things.
one down. It's got to go into our book.
Yeah. Dory, my husband really appreciates my memory.
Well, it does when it comes to build time. Maybe not. Hey, so speaking of quotes, you read one to me that actually almost made me weep that I gave to you out of my heart to guide you. How many years ago was that one?
No, that one, the one with the boundaries was from your previous talk on boundaries.
Really, I just spouted it out.
I mean, amongst other things.
Sheesh. Why don't you go ahead? Start us out anyhow. Where do
So
we start?
boundaries are meant to ebb and flow. Breathe. Come
Where'd you
in.
get this? Is this the quote?
Yes. This is from
Wow.
your boundaries talk that you did in, like, I don't know, 2014 or something.
Okay, I believe you. Go ahead.
Pre-children for me. Okay.
2014.
So boundaries are meant to ebb and flow, to breathe. Come in, go out. Boundaries must be flexible, but have a solid foundation of self-values, self-respect, self-truth. And the only way you can do that is if you behave in that way, not having others behave in that way. You have to be able to monitor your boundaries around you. And you can only do that when you represent consistently who you are and how you operate yourself, and you do it in a sane way. That comes from learning to be happy.
I want to add something that I learned in that today. That also comes when you learn to communicate your boundaries in a diplomatic and healthy way. Very essential. Without that, you're missing a major element of connection. You have to be able to. Most people hold grudges because they don't know how to communicate in a healthy way.
Sums up every couple that ever comes in for marriage counseling ever. We
You
need
think?
to work on communication. Maybe less grudge holding.
One thing that we've learned at Time to Heal, I'm looking at our logo. I rather do like that logo, although it's really hard to read and people don't know what it is.
Squirrel.
I'm looking at it, and it sums up us, patience over time. From Egypt, wrap me in mummies wrapping. Be that patient with people. It'll take a few thousand years, they'll get it.
Well, that's actually something that we have to talk about tonight is when it comes to boundaries, like we know children learn through repetition. Every parent and teacher knows this. Every parent who's trying to homeschool right now is learning this. But we have this idea that you're an adult, so you should know this, and I shouldn't have to say it more than once. And age is not an indication of knowing how to interact healthy. It's just not.
Definitely not.
So boundaries tend to need to be repetitive. So
We have learned that. And more important, what I've learned about boundaries is people are horrible at it. Here's what I've seen.
so bad. What
I'm
are you
already
seeing?
rambling. You got me going.
Go ahead.
There you go. You got me fired up.
All right, go.
So watch. Every time we watch at time to heal, all we see all day is, first of all, I've learned women get totally overwhelmed emotionally when there's conflict, and some men. As soon as there's conflict, they run into a totally different, they don't stand in themselves and represent in a non-defensive way. There's always got to be some kind of emotional reaction or defeatist reaction or physical reaction or that. How about this? This is the option. Listening. Look at that. What? 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 See? Yeah. So we've learned that as we watch people, how very few people listen to each other. What they do.
What they do is they filter through past damage.
And they demand of each other to heal that past damage. That's what they're actually doing. I demand you heal all my past hurts. I demand that you make me feel like my dad still loves me. And
Now.
me. I demand that you make me feel that my last boyfriend shouldn't have abused me.
Right?
That's all we're doing. That's all people are doing. Sorry, I moved that. There, now you can see my head. I don't want to be the talking beard or something. So,
okay,
no,
but in those emotional reactions, all that's happening is people are filtering through everything they haven't forgiven.
And didn't set boundaries with originally. That's
because
my point.
Forgiveness and boundaries actually go together.
Which is why we're doing these talks. What a segue. High
Oh,
five.
wow.
What's that? Unbelievable. That's why we're doing this. These merry dances of people that they do. I didn't set boundaries. Now I'm going to hold grudges and blah, blah. It all starts by why. Okay, so here's the thing. Do we teach children to set boundaries, or do we teach children to defend themselves?
Okay, well, I teach children boundaries.
You do?
Yeah. I think actually what is often taught to children is to ignore their intuition. And we actually, generally speaking, children are learned self-doubt.
I've got to consider that. Say that again.
Children tend to be taught to ignore their intuition and their gut feelings.
Exactly. And there's a problem with that. There's a challenge with that.
Yes.
And that's why children can walk into bullies full frontal and not know it. Naivety in childhood is never a blessed thing, but it is a blessed trait. It doesn't necessarily work out as a blessed occurrence.
Yeah.
Naive children tend to suffer much. I believe in the process of eliminating naive and keeping pure. There's a difference. But it can be done. Keeping good, let's call it good.
Yep.
The pure comes from children who come from a higher level of good because they haven't had as much time to screw up. So they're pure. Then the more you screw up, oh, now you're down to good. And then where it goes from there is up to you. Depraved. So you start with kids. Here's what I'm going to say. The reason why I'm starting with kids is I watched a client today turn into a child. I always see people in their childhood. I really do.
We talked about that.
What we've learned is most people suffer from trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point do you wonder if, Jesus, I keep forgetting. Okay, so what point do you think, if this child had learned boundary setting with adults, perhaps they wouldn't have been molested? Boundary setting, right? It worked for me. When someone attempted to molest me when I was 11, and no, I was actually younger. I was like, Toronto. My mother took me to a public pool. I was in the change room alone. The guy tried to, flashback. I was about 8 years old, but I'd already been taught there the boundaries to set with somebody who's coming too close to touch me. So I went into red alert right away. Red alert. The guy ran out of the wine in his underwear. That's how red alert I went. I knew something. Yes, but I was educated in boundary setting.
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't educated in boundary setting in healthy emotions with people, healthy interactions with people. It just didn't happen. How about you? How's your boundary setting?
My boundary setting is excellent.
Now it is.
Now
We
it
both
is.
have pretty good boundary setting, don't we?
We're rocking the boundary setting.
We've been put to the test.
We've had a lot of practice. But I find like what happens if we're talking about children, what happens with children
Yes.
is there is a people-pleasing narrative.
Yes.
So like I have to, so you know, I have someone in my family who is struggling with addiction, right? Who my children adore, and this person adores my children. And they're not allowed to make promises to my kids because
That's boundary
people
setting.
don't keep promises when they're in active addiction. That's how that goes. So one of the boundaries is they're not allowed to make promises to my kids. But I've had to support my kids in learning how to express how they feel when this relative lets them down. And then I find for me, I have to go straight to forgiveness because now I'm watching you hurt my kid, right? Don't like that. Mama Bear doesn't like that. So I have to forgive it to maintain the boundaries in a kind way so that I can actually support my kids through their emotional process and feeling empowered to share how they feel and to set the boundary.
I just went through this amazing moment of grotesque pride. It's almost disgusting. And how well you articulate yourself and how healthy you become.
Mm-hmm.
I just got lost in it. I'm grateful. I know that your husband very much sees you now.
Yeah.
Yes. Boundary setting with loved ones, boundary setting with anybody is never easy. Now, here's the thing. First,
okay, no, let me talk on the kids just for one more
sorry,
second.
go ahead, please. Please, go ahead.
The temptation in like my programming would be to deny the addiction, right? Be like, oh no, they don't mean it. It's okay. Just, you know, or to like lie about. We're trained to go into denial, justification, rationalization, and all of these denials to make excuses for people's behavior because it's too uncomfortable to deal with it with the kids. So instead, we actually like feed these kids lies to teach them to ignore their intuition because it's uncomfortable for us to sit in the, yes, this person who you love is totally messing up and it hurts.
Well, we know that we guide people to helping children understand that. That's one of our protocols at Time to Heal.
Yes.
I want to say, because I know that pretty soon you and I will be talking to much larger audiences and whatnot. It's pretty well written in stone based on even just the responses from our last talk.
Mm-hmm.
I want to point out to everybody how clear I am. Really, absolutely, succinctly clear right in this moment. I want to be, and that is, I humbly see that it's taken me a long time to learn these processes. For instance, what is open-hearted? How do you set open-hearted boundaries?
Let me tell you.
Yes, please.
Open-hearted boundaries means keeping my heart connected to the person, forgiving any transgressions first, so watch the part 1 video for that, and then guiding our interactions and behaviors to be healthier for long-term peace from a place of respect and compassion, mutual respect and compassion. I have to maintain respect and compassion for myself and the other person.
Oh my God, that was so good. Read it in slow motion backwards in Latin. that was actually really good.
Right?
Jeez. Okay, that's funny. You did it funny. Go ahead.
Okay. Open-hearted boundaries means keeping my heart connected to the person, forgiving any transgressions first, and guiding our interactions and behaviors to be healthier for the long term.
I've got an audience here. I've got to ask this audience.
Okay, audience. Sorry, audience.
Yeah, I've got one person in my audience right here. We're shooting live from the tiny desk studio of my living room,
You
where I've
love
got
your
a
tiny
tiny
desk.
desk behind me. So there's tiny. So we're gonna make tiny desk talks. We're gonna make tiny bookshelf talks.
You're really on this tiny desk thing.
Tiny book, yeah, because it was so cool. If you watch the tiny desk music concerts, everybody, coolest shit ever. Stuff.
I will also say that if anybody has a question for us, feel free to just type it into the chat there. I am keeping up to date on those, and we will try to answer them.
I need you to read that again because it just sounded so altruistic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Open-hearted boundaries means keeping my heart connected to the person, forgiving any transgressions first, and guiding our interactions and behaviors to be healthier for the long term from a place of mutual respect and compassion.
God. Person in the audience. Did I do that today? I did that today. Oh my goodness. And you want to know what's cool? That I now know is true? For anybody who wants to remember my past, because that's what's happening. People contacted me from 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Here's what's cool. Practice does not make perfect. Whoever made that up is an asshole.
Lied. Oh my God.
Liar. Practice does not make perfect. Practice helps you see your imperfections.
Oh, that one's going to annoy people, Andrew.
That's a good one. I just
Practice makes you see your imperfections. I will not be telling that to my son as he's practicing piano.
If you didn't practice, how would you know your imperfections?
No, I get it.
And so what I'm trying to say is, because it has to make sense what I'm saying, it's easier for me to be me. It's easier for me to live by the values that I've learned that have me see myself and to value the people around me. It's easy for me to do it now. It's easy for me not to hold a grudge like I used to do with my parents, like an idiot, and just various people I love and people I don't love. It's easy for me to appreciate. I see it, like someone can be in my face pissing me off who I've known a long time or a short time that I love. And I see nothing but the positives in them. Even when they're annoying me, I choose to see their positives. So that's part of what we learned in forgiveness. I kind of segued you. Why don't we do a recap of last week and combine it to today?
Okay. So forgiveness is the first step, and it's about me. Withholding forgiveness means I'm choosing to suffer or make others suffer. That's called bad values. We go to grudge holding, blame, which creates circles of hell, torturing each other, acting out, reacting, blaming the other person for their reactions. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is a discipline, an action, and a choice. It's about reprogramming our reaction to the memory, letting go of the fear that we won't survive being hurt again. Forgiveness is not about saying the behavior was okay or about being a doormat, but we think holding grudges will prevent us from getting hurt. It doesn't work. It actually invites, I think the word you used was, it invites more anal pods into your life, was the terminology.
Oh, there's a good segue. Anal
right?
pods.
Anal pods. So forgiveness is not about apologies. It's the beginning of healing, reprogramming our reaction to the memory of the event so we create peace in our own lives.
Nice segue.
Mm-hmm.
So now the dance begins. So you forgive, but you don't want it to happen again.
Boundaries.
Person going back to some behaviors that could indicate that, and you set boundaries. Now, how do you do it with an open heart? How do we do this really?
The boundary you actually taught me that seems to work for everybody aged 10 months and up is I love you and no.
It's the best one ever.
Age 10 months and up works. I have literally said that to everything from my infant children to my 70-year-old father-in-law. I love you and no.
Now, here's why we're laughing, though, because I said that to your husband. I don't use his name online because I'm learning Facebook rules.
Good job.
And well, he didn't. I imagine he wouldn't care, but I didn't ask. So, or your son's name, but your son spent how long, buddy? 6 months?
I don't know.
I don't know either. He was in our daycare at our work. We built a daycare right in the wall where all the clients had to sit.
Yep. Some mats.
Fearlessly, we did that.
We did.
And every day for at least an hour a day, almost straight. Tonic, no, I love you. Tonic, I love you. No. Tonic, no, I
I
love
love
you.
how you just said you wouldn't say his name and then said it 3 times. It's
Oh,
fine.
I'm so bad at this. I'm so bad
You're
at this.
terrible at this. Go ahead. It's fine.
God, I'm so bad at this. Sorry.
Oh, good.
T? No. Yeah, I blew it though. But that, yes, it works.
I love you and no. No and I love you. I
But
love you. No. No, I love you. No, I love you.
it works for me because that way I didn't get angry because your son was very loud and cried and demanded a lot.
Yes.
He demanded much.
Yes. He's good like that. It's pretty chill
Basically,
now,
like
actually.
6 months to shut down. Not even, it didn't even shut him down.
I don't have any wimpy children.
No,
No.
it didn't even shut him down. It tempered him.
Yeah.
You know, but
It
you
just
got
taught
it.
him how to negotiate.
Yeah, and he's good at it. But it was boundary setting.
But it was boundary setting with the kids, and I mean I say that still at least 10 times a day sometimes.
Yeah.
But I mean I've also said the same thing in every relationship I have now. Right? I love you
Of
and
course.
it's not okay. I love you and no.
I've got another one. I've got a new one for you
Mhm.
that I've set with people who never will hear you, never have, and will relentlessly pound you. It's I love you, goodbye.
Yeah.
I've been working on new words after I love you. It's been
Yep.
wondrous
Mhm.
when it's just an
The other
onslaught.
one I actually really like is I respect your choices.
That one I taught clients 20 something years ago is a
Yeah.
number one.
I respect your choices.
How do you people argue with that?
I accept your choices. I respect your
That's your
choices.
choices. Okay, what's the argument now? How dare you respect me? You know? So all of these are strategies of healthy setting boundaries, healthy
Yes.
boundary setting, right?
Yes.
And I think they all work. I really do. I'm a strong believer in protocol that works, do it over again.
Repeat.
Repeat. Very key word in our programs. You and I have never really discussed that, have we?
All the time.
Okay, I'll just pretend. So let's have a repetition conversation about what we discussed repetitively. Repeat. How important is that in boundary setting?
Well, it's absolutely essential,
Why?
right? Like, because all of these emotional issues and these transgressions and these boundary crossings are usually happening from gaps in our learning that we didn't get as children. And children learn through repetition.
Okay, gaps in learning. We learn children learn from repetition. Repetition, that's correct. Remember, I'm going through the files. We have written so much. Oh my God. First of all, also at this moment, about every 15, 20 minutes, I'm going to say, how many people are listening?
31 right now.
Okay, I want everybody who's listening to tell people about Aaron and I, because I find that we're making a lot of sense very succinctly on our talks. And I believe we can help a lot of people by listening to these. So remember that, folks.
What about forgiveness in the absence of apology? Is that healthy or not? Forgiveness has nothing to do with apologies.
Yeah,
at all.
I don't know how the two relate.
They don't relate.
Explain that one.
Why don't forgiveness? Because forgiveness is a process that I do for me. Forgiveness is a discipline to create peace in my own life. It is not at all dependent on what anybody else is doing. And when we don't forgive, we empower everyone who's ever hurt us.
I need you to repeat that because it's like a wiki moment.
When we don't forgive, we empower everyone who has ever hurt us.
So That means we dig up old subconscious wounds that we relive.
Yeah.
Now, here's something. Now, let's throw this in the mirror. This also applies to self-forgiveness, and this is what people keep forgetting. Everything we're talking about also includes you in the picture.
Well, yes. And actually, something that we should talk about tonight that will always make us very popular is boundaries with self.
Well, now we got the double mirrored irony because
No, it's really simple. How can you set boundaries with other people if you aren't holding yourself accountable to what is and isn't okay?
but here's where it's double edged because
Yeah.
then who decides the values, right?
Yes. That's in workshop
That's why
two.
we
We're not
have a
going in there.
workshop. That's why we have a
That's workshop two. Moving on.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying though. So that's where it gets complicated because then people, I've been watching, funny, everybody needs to think, where would we be without Netflix? It's basically our new God. I believe that people should be on their knees with their laptops, praising to the God of the Netflix every morning, like the Quran. I mean, people, oh my God, everything's Netflix, everything. But it's been good. And Netflix documentaries have been very educational for me. And one thing that I've learned for is that people live for futility. You can say what you want, you can do what you want, you can write all the workshops you want, boundary setting, all this, and then people got to be futile. If they're not being futile with themselves, they'll be futile with others. If they're not being futile with their others, they'll be futile with their long term. If they're not being futile with their long term, they'll develop a quirk that always leads back to the same stupid pattern.
Sounds like a good reason to set boundaries with stupid patterns.
I'm saying. So the joy of connection, I even have a point to this, is having someone you can mirror with. That's the beauty, community. And having foundations that are basically the same core value. Now, this could lead to the Christian moralistic movement or whatever.
It doesn't matter which foundation you pick, really. Just try and pick one that makes sense.
There's some sense of morality. The whole key being, let's not go extreme to the other side. So this is why we are not political or religious, but we are into pointed common sense.
Every faith tradition on earth has some sort of variation of the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd have them do to you. Every faith tradition has some version of that.
And then they go out and kill each other. I
didn't say it was applied. Humans choose futile. You just said this. I'm saying pick your tradition. It doesn't matter.
Foundations to the basic philosophies on earth that work. And the part of those foundations is how people learn the values to set healthy boundaries.
So you're saying that you can find the values for healthy boundaries through any moral tradition that suits your...
Yes. Yes. This is adaptable. You can't fit other sizes.
Not quite one size fits all, but yes. So what you're saying, though, is that in order to actually set healthy boundaries, you yourself have to be consistent in actually knowing your values and adhering to them.
And the values have to have a course common sense that they positively affect people, no matter who they are in the long term.
Some variation of the golden rule, right? Some variation of be kind.
Because then you got people who say, well, I thought it was good that I killed her father because he owed me $100. There's some value in that. I took him out of his own misery. People can justify whatever. So within reason,
people can justify anything. Yes.
Within reason of common sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the sake of all peace and comfort, we find that the very rooted foundation of most relationships in a healthy way comes through forgiveness, setting healthy boundaries, and communication. What's our next week talk about?
Next week we talk about peaceful coexistence, because ideally we're actually aiming to forgive, and then when you forgive and you set boundaries that are aiming for long-term good, then you actually change the relationship and you open the door to hope, and you create an environment in which you can change the patterns and actually peacefully exist together.
What a concept again.
We don't get there through grudges.
I'm getting older.
Oh dear.
Yes, it's happening. And it's interesting because I talked about today, one thing, I'm loving this fact. People think that, first of all, I sit in amazement at how people even adjust to having children. How do we all adjust? How do people
Shock.
adjust to shock?
Just shock and awe.
To the fact that people even build careers and stay at them for 30 years in the past. People actually did that. What the
Well,
hell?
they used to have that option.
Yeah, but it's just amazing. Well, here's the thing I've learned. The reason why people over 60 are peaceful, and no matter who they are, they try and search for peace. They want more quiet. They want more privacy. It's because we're fucking tired. Excuse my language. It's people who get tired. And it becomes a natural progression to become these things. People get tired because they don't forgive and set boundaries. It wears you out. And of course, various other things, work bills, blah, 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 the grind. But I've come to learn that most people are wearing each other out in how they relate to each other.
Well,
And
people don't realize how much energy they're actually burning on nothing with those grudges.
My mother went crazy from it, straight up. She held grudges so hard, she basically got so bitter, because of course grudges lead to a bitter. And bitter leads to despair, and despair leads to depression, and depression leads to everything.
Or nothing, yeah.
Depression is a gateway drug to misery. Oh, there's a good quote.
Depression is a gateway drug to misery. Nice. There's a t-shirt. Put that one on a t-shirt.
Anybody suffering from depression, forgive me for that joke. That was really, really inappropriate. But
I gotta write that one down.
gateway drug to
Depression is a gateway drug to what?
misery.
I love it. That's fantastic.
I'm over it. That one I couldn't, because we see it all the time, right? But it is.
People don't realize how much energy they're burning.
Yes. And the thing being, I believe, I'm a firm believer in most depression comes from not being able to forgive people, don't forgive themselves, and they're stuck in dark pride.
That's a big statement, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Depression comes from a lack of forgiveness.
Yeah, it does.
Let me consider that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a whole list, isn't it?
And it even stems from self-forgiveness, right? Yeah.
It's mostly self-forgiveness. It'd be the lack of self-forgiveness, and the lack of self-forgiveness filtered through feeling victimized by others and not forgiving.
Or having been victimized because they were in a mother in her womb and she never could self-forgive herself. And imagine the energy of being in a womb of a woman who never self-forgave herself.
Now you're going to pre-birth trauma.
No. Hey, that's funny. We just discussed that. I'm going to, that person has said, that's trauma. Sure it is. It is pre-birth trauma. We still have a choice to change the pattern.
Well, it's still our choice. It's the only thing, it's the only option.
Now, people who are medically depressed will be all up in arms. We have to be careful because we are going to the public soon. So with everything we say, and I've learned from watching Netflix, people are all just, there's, what do you call those, trolls?
Yes, trolls, yes.
They're waiting to fight, and they even come on ours. People have never been to time to heal, talk really badly about us or me or whatever. And I'm just amazed at the bottom line. Everything in life, everything that we're about to do, Erin, and everything that we are, and everything that we represent, and everything that's online, and everything that's accumulated, and all through this, everybody's worn out, and we pass. Everybody's just worn out because we're all here trying to survive. So be it depression, anger, rage, all of it, to me, can be healed. It's all of it.
Well, and at this point, you just see it all as exhausting. You're like, that looks tiring.
But then I watch people with the luxury of common sense, who have privilege and health, come in, who can't set healthy boundaries or forgive themselves. and torture themselves
Yeah.
or people around them. That's what we
Yes.
deal with every day.
Okay, so how do we actually communicate boundaries in the moment?
Well, me, I communicate them curtly.
Curtly is a word. I was going to go with concise,
Yeah.
direct,
Curtly is both of those.
yeah, repetitively,
Yes, curtly doesn't cover that ground.
yeah.
So
would
listen, this is actually important.
It is very important.
Most boundaries in a close relationship have to be set on the spot. Here's what people do. I'll talk later. Okay, fine. But then when later comes, talk.
Yeah.
Don't let things boil. Don't let things brew. Don't, because they never ever simmer for a long time in a nice way if they're forgotten on the stove. Sooner or later, the pot will burn.
And boundaries are generally not the big story.
How do you mean?
Well, I was just feeling the thing about this thing, and then my mom, and then you didn't do the thing, and then I was did it right. Like, you stopped
Yeah.
listening already.
Yeah.
It's like, as soon as you go into a big story, there's no longer a boundary.
You started doing that. I'm like, oh God, let me go. I got
Right? See?
that was fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
nice.
Here's a boundary. I'm not okay with that.
I'm all ears. You know me. I'm on call. Blah blah blah.
Right? But no, boundaries have to be like simple, direct, actually spoken out loud in one sentence, usually.
Yes.
Max two sentences.
The thing being, people don't know how to set boundaries without exactly, and then they go into victim.
Yeah.
This is what you did to me, and why did you do that to me? And if you do that to me, and then it triggered me, and then they go and say, "Oh, shut up! How about this? I'm feeling out of sorts. I need you not to do this now. I don't feel you're representing yourself in the best way. Oh, peace out." Then they come
Or
back
quite as
heavier.
simple as that behavior is not tolerated in our home.
Yes, that's Kurt.
Yes.
It's like you're a
Okay,
Kurt.
we got a question. We got a question for Banway.
Okay, I gotta send this out.
How do you actually know what your boundary is? How do you know when it's something that needs to be set? So Brene Brown really quickly sums up boundaries as what's okay and what's not okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that leads back to children and pedophiles and whatnot.
That's where boundaries need to start.
I've learned my lessons are seen.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Can you please send this to Jan? Both of those. So Renee Brown, say that again, please.
Brene Brown's boundaries are simply what's okay and what's not okay.
You mentioned something earlier that I'm trying to look up on my phone and I can't find it. And I found that's because we're so well prepared. But I do like that we do this, to be honest with you, that we just go for it and very live on stage. Plus, you sent me one of my favorite sculptors, the artist in Italy, who did,
Donatello, Mary Magdalene.
yeah, Donatello, Mary Magdalene, carved in the 14th century, I believe.
1492 is 14
Oh,
something.
don't say it when Columbus sailed or some shit. Well, that was 16.
No, I don't know. It was 1400s.
All right.
It's in a quiet church basement in Florence.
It's so incredibly strikingly beautiful.
It's
And
the most incredible piece of art I've ever had the privilege to stand in front of. It breathes.
It's alive.
Yeah.
So you had, let me see. Oh, you were going to read something else I wrote. I don't know why, but can you read it?
Yes.
That's what it was.
Maybe. What do I do with it? Oh, it's down at the bottom. Hang on.
If I can find it. You are watching live on stage, Andrew and Aaron screwing up because we don't rehearse.
Setting boundaries, communicating to, so you have to communicate your boundaries to people. So you stay in your concentric self in a balanced way and ripple or mirror some form of positive goodness. Boundaries so that you can mirror positive to society.
I like that too.
Hmm.
I've noticed that it's like, this is what brought this on because I said about victims and people go to victims when they're setting boundaries. Well, if you're mirroring positive and you want positive, you can't do it as a victim.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now we've opened a can of worms. Everyone loves to be a victim when they're pissed off at their mate.
Definitely.
So that's the interesting thing we've never talked about that we deal with many clients, right? You
Well, if I
got
think
one
about the
person.
boundaries yeah, I mean, good Lord, you can't set boundaries with the children, with children as a victim. That definitely won't work. I
No,
definitely can't hold boundaries with my husband as a victim. That won't work.
no.
Definitely not with my family or my in-laws. That's just a like
Ooh,
asking for torture.
no, usually they're the victim of you.
I got the memo.
Yes.
Um, but you're right. I can't. There can't be any victim energy. There has to be just full acceptance of this is reality and this
That's
is not
something we've
okay.
never actually considered as far as the boundary setting, but it's obviously a given. I mean, now that you
It's a
look,
given to us, but I mean, we talk about just not being a victim, not self-victimizing or representing yourself as a victim all the time.
now
People
watch
get
this. Can
victimized.
you be a victim and do anything honorable for that if it's not positively based?
You can have been victimized,
Yes.
but if you represent yourself as a victim, you're in trouble.
Now let's go to Anime's question again. I just needed time. I didn't want to.
Anime's question is, how do you actually know what your boundary is? How do you know when it's something that needs to be set?
When you feel like a naked kid in a woodshed with your uncle. I don't know. What I'm saying, when you feel that way, I don't, but not that I'm familiar. Uncle Raymond, I forgive you. The thing being, sorry, I can't help it. You just can't take me anywhere. This isn't funny. Now, anybody who's watching that may have had these problems earlier, forget I said that. I wasn't trying to walk you through trauma lane here. We tend to want people to be more lighthearted about everything in life. Now, I want you to repeat that question again so I can not laugh because I have all sorts of weird stuff going through my head.
Okay, how do you actually know what your boundary is? How do you know when it's something that needs to be set?
You know that something needs to be set when you feel small, uncomfortable in your own environment, uncomfortable in their environment,
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable, period.
And I would add unsafe.
Unsafe is a great word to add.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's these things that people do to work things out. You see it all the time, all over the world. It's called discussions. The more the question should be is, how do you have a positive discussion with people who have different values of boundary setting?
Good question.
Damn it, I had to go and ask that.
I know. Say it again. Let me see if I can answer it. How do you have boundaries? No.
How do you bridge the gap between two different value systems of boundaries?
Oh, I do every day in my marriage.
Exactly, but how do
I
you do it?
literally do every day.
That, to me, is
Um,
to me more. I know that the anime is giving us a segue question.
I know she's great like that.
Yeah,
Thanks, Anna.
to me, that's where it segues to. So you got someone with these values here, be
Mhm.
they religious, political, whatever, and this one's over here.
I married a Polish Catholic immigrant. I was raised by feminist hippies.
Yes,
This
that.
is a gap.
Yes,
There's a gap there.
you guys have done a great job on.
Yes, we have. Okay, so how did we actually do that? Is we base our long-term trajectory on our shared values.
Long-term trajectory, shared values.
Yeah, we share
Beautiful
values. We share the value of family, of loyalty, of commitment, of being lighthearted, of hard work, I mean, there's all the reasons why we chose to marry each other are the values that we share. We
That's
tend,
a perfect answer.
there you go. And then where we disagree or where that gap comes in is often from family patterns, which may or may not actually work. So some stuff we just need to work out, and some stuff is stuff that we're actually still just working on healing.
Are Hillary and Amanda here?
I don't
tonight?
know.
Let's find out.
Yeah, Amanda is.
All right. So they may be both be there. I know that I can use your names. You've been clients for years and whatnot. So I'm just going to simply say this. You guys figure it out. Boundary setting and healthy. Figure it
Okay,
out. Forgiveness.
Amanda actually just said compromise, which, yes, but I want to talk about compromise just because we're
Please
talking
do.
about marriage. If we go with how people are raised, you know, broad generalization, men are often taught to ask for what they want,
Mhm.
and women are taught to offer the most they can sacrifice.
Yes.
And then you want to compromise from here. And
Yes.
then he goes, how come you won't compromise? And she goes, I can't possibly give any more, because what she wants is over here, but he has no idea. He's never heard what she actually wants.
We're getting very smart at this, and I'd love to hear you elucidate something that I've seen so often.
Yeah.
Men sitting in their self-righteous arrogance of emotional wideness of territory and physical wideness of territory, and oh my God, they've got the Serengeti Plains. You've got a little plot in Nantucket.
And then they go, can't you just sacrifice a bit? Just compromise with me.
It's very true, because we watch it all the time in counseling. But being that I can't fault men for that, because we were raised to be that.
Yeah.
And what's even more beautiful is women have accommodated men for so many years. I just saw a horrible, scary comedy by David Spade. If you all get a chance to see it, it's The Wrong Missy on Netflix. And it's showing you where our world's come to with females and the way they talk and represent themselves in Hollywood. The female I'm talking about is the woman he ends up dating. It's a must-see if you want to see where this world is at with the modern contemporary woman. Must-see. Women are becoming more kick-ass in movies. Period. All across the board. And it's a good thing. But
It helps when they actually let women writers in the room.
Well, I'm being kind of a woman advocate. So boundary setting with women, as most men will tell you, is virtually almost impossible. Jerry Seinfeld, again, Netflix talks about it, about his wife, and basically.
So I've had this conversation with a few men who I appreciate dearly, where the conversation has basically gone, how come she gets to call me on my shit and I don't get to call her on hers? And my answer have been, because you've made her into your everything. Your wife, your housekeeper, your therapist, your guide, your confidant, your only source of emotional support. So she has to hold you accountable. She has an entire community of support, a therapist, friends she can rely on, people who hold her in check, accountability partners. You have her. You want her to be your everything, she gets to call you on your shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's like hiring somebody for your corporation, saying you are the accounts manager, you are the boss, you are the planner. In fact, there's going to be some expansion, and you're also running that. You're also running the team and the employees, and I call the shots. Oh, by the way, you'll be working.
Okay.
No arrogance there whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it's made us more impartial to being able to talk to men and women and how they set boundaries. Let's talk about something more relevant, grudge holding.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be the major factor in how people interact in an emotional basis.
The way of a happy marriage, grudge holding?
So let's link these words.
Yes.
Forgiveness,
yep.
Boundary setting,
mm-hmm.
And then let's link these words, grudge holding and victim.
Totally. I know which one I want to live in.
They don't work together. But we see that that is the whole proponent of
Okay.
counseling.
Yes.
We're counseling grudge holding victims.
Every day.
That's really
Okay.
what it's
Okay. So, but on the flip side, if you choose forgiveness and those open-hearted boundaries, what those actually include is, well, it's still the I love you no, because it's still affirming the value of that person and telling them what's okay. So if I go with like my kids, it's you do not hit your brother. Hitting is not kind. You are kind. Right? If I
nice.
right, if I take it up to a grown up, and boundaries I set with my husband is I see the man you are and I know you can rise to the challenge.
Let's talk about this. Boundaries sometimes means you have to take actions that may hurt you in the short term and free you in the long term.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Is
We need to talk about
people
it because
so okay, why do people choose that? Because they actually go to short-term appeasement instead of long-term peace.
short-term appeasement. That's another quote from me. Look at you.
No, that one's me.
Is it? That's
Yeah.
a fantastic quote. Say that again, please.
Short-term people go to short-term appeasement instead of long-term peace.
That's beautiful. I love that. Why do people do that?
To avoid being uncomfortable in the moment. So they'll suffer in the long term.
Segue back to the word conflict that I find that women avoid that I mentioned earlier.
Women avoid conflict?
And men.
Yeah. I think everybody tries to avoid
People.
conflict.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Out of fear.
that was a bit sexist of me, but it's only because I'm surrounded by women day and night every day of my life. So I meant to say people. And a lot of that fear is almost justified. I fear conflict because I remember my parents fighting. I fear conflict because it gives me a gut feeling of discomfort. It makes me want to hide in a ball.
I feared conflict because it meant that the ground was going to fall out from under me and there was no sane life.
Yes.
And I feared conflict because conflict with a man could turn violent and I could be unsafe.
Look at us go. I don't fear conflict anymore.
Me neither.
In fact, I address it quite brazenly. It's the
Me
word.
too.
Yes, you do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why that wonderful Time to Heal logo is still in our business, and that's why we're still open.
Yeah.
As we grow and become known, I'm going to have to set boundaries to people who know me from the past. I get a kick out of this, and this is what I thought of. If you're not rich and famous, you're not allowed to make errors. You're not allowed to be an addict. You're not allowed to be a drunk. If you don't earn X amount of money or you're rich and famous, you are allowed to only have shame and guilt. And people can remind you of it till you die.
Not being white helps too.
Not being white.
Yeah. If you're white, you can have more addictions. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
White people are allowed and
The poverty line is lower if you're white.
I've just noticed these things. I mean,
Yeah, totally.
it's okay. You just segued into that bad joke you told me. You got to do the bad joke.
Oh, that one? That was a meme. That was the
now I
why
want
does
to hear this because it's interesting. Go ahead.
was why does Batman only cover Batman only covers half his face because he needs the police to know he's white.
That's probably the most, I mean, that says it all. That just sums up everything. Everything. But color aside, I love that joke because it's the way it encapsulates much more meaning than just the white. The power and the, why doesn't he show his face, and on and on. Here's the cool part about what we were speaking about. I just simply feel that every single person that I've dealt with is a victim to their own lack of self-forgiveness. Oh, I've lost you. I can't hear you.
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh,
I can, yeah,
okay.
you're fine.
All right. So we see repetitious cycles and layers passed on from families. We see it in the self-forgiveness and the cycles. What is a cure should be the question. What is a cure is gratitude. There's one.
Gratitude is totally a key.
Yes, it is. Okay, I keep losing you on some words. I don't know why. Are you talking now?
No, go ahead. We're
Okay.
talking about gratitude.
Oh, yeah. And I'm simply finding that it makes you value more things in the moment. Therefore, you tend to be more resolute in your viewpoint on how you should handle it.
Yes, if I'm focused on gratitude, I value the man that my husband is, even when he's pissing me off.
And you don't go into victim as quickly. That's the
No,
most
because
important.
I have to stay in gratitude. I have to stay in gratitude,
Mhm.
and sometimes, actually, a good chunk of my boundaries are often reminding people of gratitude.
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
In fact, gratitude is the vehicle to resolute oneness, which is actually spirituality.
that's beautiful.
It is actually. I said it and I went, wow, resolute oneness, which is,
Yeah, because I affirm the gratitude in saying, I value you in my life.
you got to write that down. It's a vehicle to resolute.
Vehicle to resolute oneness.
Yes, because it is. It's the great, great secret. It actually encapsulates everything. Uh, light control, light pride, light ego, gratitude.
Yeah, but people on this video
that.
don't know what that is. So let's just stick with gratitude. That's in
Gratitude,
workshop.
yeah, sorry. Gratitude helps you see clearly with your behavior of self. Gratitude helps you understand more about putting the shoe on the other foot and helping others. All these things include forgiveness and setting boundaries. Gratitude helps you communicate in a better way. Instead of shitting on people, you may, in the short term, want to crap on them, but in the long term, remember you love them and why you love them. I put gratitude in the forefront for everything I do, in everything I am, and everywhere I am. For that reason, I want clarity when I map my value system, deciding how to set boundaries. With gratitude, you can stay very clear-minded. Ooh, I like that.
So we have a comment here from Flory. Says, it seems that one needs to determine what areas they're flexible on. It's tough to compromise on core beliefs.
I got to say it, but tell Trump that. I'll tell you, you're right when it comes to him. No compromise whatsoever. But let's address what he said. What did he say? Who was that who said that?
That was Flory. She. It's
Flory.
tough to compromise on your core beliefs.
Who?
I went to school with her.
Oh, thank you. Hi. I got to know everything. I don't care if we're talking. So read it again because I'm dumb like that sometimes.
It seems that one needs to know what areas they're flexible on. It's tough to compromise core beliefs.
I got something for you. People will bend you and you'll find out what you're flexible in. Situations will bend you and you'll find out what you're flexible in. Here's one thing I've learned about me. I have very little range of motion and I'm not overly flexible, but I am reasonable. That's a different word. What you should be saying to yourself is, what is reasonable to me? Reasoning, go to reasoning. That involves you taking that emotionalism that's bound in you, taking it from your heart to an analytical process and back to your heart. Is there another way? The analyzing. This has happened before. Can I forgive them? Yes. Do I want this to happen again? Absolutely not. Have I tried to change it? Yes, I have. Do I wish to go on with this painful, ridiculous patterned relationship that I have with this person? No, I don't. Initiate boundary, initiate boundary. Doot, doot, code red. Right? That's the way it should basically work, but it doesn't. But that's the way it should work. I guide most of my female clients to recognizing I love what's beautiful about women. I love the emotional side of a woman. I love the nurturing side of a woman. I do not love what every male comedian jokes about, a woman's ability to go get lost in emotionalism and
We lost Andrew there for a minute. Okay. Let me see where we're at. Are you there?
I'm there. That was weird.
Yeah, you froze. Hang on, I need to go set a boundary. I'll be right back.
Oh my goodness. Well, here we are. How pleasant. I feel really put on the spot and naked in a wonderful way. That's creepy. All right. Basically, what we're finding out is there's a policy, a philosophy, principles that it's taken me a long time to adhere to, but they definitely involve me setting boundaries as a way to keep my sanity. It's really a me thing. Without boundary setting, you don't learn your self-worth and you don't maintain a healthy self-esteem. I'm doing both. I wish there was a way for me to impart to everybody an instant understanding and a discipline to the values involved in just not fighting, compromise, talking. I'm just talking about values, compromise, talking, respecting a long-term picture, that it's not easy. All these things, I mean, everyone knows the story between you and I. You were a client 11, 12 years ago, or whatever.
No, people
Look
don't
up.
know the story, Andrew. This is a whole new audience.
No,
But
is it?
regardless, we're not getting into it.
Regardless, I won't bore you. Bottom line, it takes years to learn these things. But instead of seeing the final, when will it happen? How about take steps towards it? Then it happens naturally, as you've done. You stuck with the foundations, you saw your principles, you changed your value system, you got your self-worth, and you leap forward. Constantly
Yeah, so
adjusting.
and once I locked into my value system, I don't compromise on it.
Not anymore, but you have to be certain your value system is fair to all, not just
Yes.
yourself, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Hold on, please. I'm going to be back myself.
Okay. So let me just talk to that for a second. Flory, I don't compromise on my core beliefs. So because I've worked really, really hard to make sure that my core values are fair and represent everybody. And I base those values on the long-term highest good for everybody involved, not just what I want in the short term. So if I can keep it focused on the long term, as in, so for my husband and I want us to have a long, happy marriage where we like each other and raise healthy kids. Well, then my boundaries need to be in alignment with that. And we share that commitment. So there's a agreement and a commitment to set boundaries when we're not in alignment with that. So that's one thing. Let me see what other questions we got here. Would setting a healthy boundary with my boys be telling them I will not cater to their last minute requests only time they reach out, as it is the only time they reach out to me? Yes. White privilege, loaded word of truth. Yeah, it's a thing. Gratitude keeps your heart open. Yes. Welcome back, Heather. All right. Where else are we at here? Okay. So to go back to some of our key points, communicating boundaries in the moment, you have to know what you're actually aiming for in the long term. What is your actual long-term desire for the interaction or relationship? You know, if it's an abusive relationship, maybe your boundary needs to, do I want this to be long-term my life? No. Okay, well then consider that. If it's with somebody that you love and are not willing to not have in your life, you know, these are family or people that you value in your life, then maybe the boundaries actually need to be I love you and I love you and no. But what are some of the boundaries I've set? Let me consider. Well, some of the boundaries I've set have been, it's not okay for you to be verbally abusive. I'm going to hang up and I love you. It's not okay for you to throw a temper tantrum in our home. That's not going to be permitted or tolerated. And I love you and we forgive you. And if you choose to be here, there's not going to be any tantrums. I accept your choices. I said that earlier. That's a big one. And on the what's okay and what's not okay is, you know, if you choose to do that, then this will be the consequence and I'll respect your choice. So I inform people of the consequences. So, okay, the big thing about boundaries, actually, we haven't even talked about this at all, is boundaries are about saying what I'm going to do. They're not about forcing anybody else to do anything. I do not have the power to change someone else's behavior. I don't have that control. So boundaries are actually about letting somebody know what I'm going to do, not telling them what they need to do. So, you know, if you choose to yell at me, I'm going to choose to leave. I can't say you're not allowed to yell ever. I don't have that control. I can say, if you're going to yell at me, I'm going to leave. I'm going to hang up now, right? Because what happens is we set these boundaries with people, and then they repeat their behavior as they have proven to do over and over. And we go, oh my God, my boundaries aren't being respected. It's like, well, yeah, but if I'm still playing the game, if I'm still in the conversation in the same way, I'm still running the same script. So if we want to change the script, you actually have to change the script. So where was that? I was talking about that earlier in my own head. Boundaries actually change the script. And when we change the script, we change the relationship. Like we get stuck in these loops, right? I know my line, you know your line. Anybody you've been arguing with for numerous years, if you hand the camera back, this is just a sitcom, right? It doesn't go anywhere. It's the same argument. I mean, how often do married couples literally have the same argument every day? If you stop arguing and you set boundaries instead, it changes the script. It changes the relationship. So you never blah, 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 or you set that boundary. And sometimes the boundary is actually, I forgive you. Because I forgive you is a script changer. I forgive you can be a boundary. Because I forgive you is an acknowledgement of transgression. You acknowledge in reality that the behavior was not okay. Thank you for apologizing is a boundary. Saying, oh, never mind, it's okay, not a boundary. So what are some of the other boundaries? One that I've used regularly, you will not convince me that you're not capable. I know you're capable. I know you can do this. I know that behavior isn't who you truly are. That behavior is not okay, and you are good. All right, questions. Should you always communicate boundaries? It is okay to just model boundaries. When it's pretty clear the other person is in denial, would not understand your reasoning for boundaries, or for example, they are mentally ill or unreasonable. I'm suspicious of your questions here. Boundaries aren't complicated, right? They're like, that behavior is not okay. So you can communicate that behavior is not okay with somebody, with anybody. So saying that, oh, there's no point in telling them, there's no point in saying that, there's just no point, sounds like victim, right? And it's taking away somebody else's opportunity to rise. It's eliminating the other person's, yeah, it takes away their opportunity to change something or learn. So I would say it out loud. No matter what they do, no matter what the other person does, stating a boundary is about me representing my own integrity and my own values. So say it out loud. And I find that people, when you don't want to say it out loud, it's usually from a fear place. How do we identify if we're choosing long-term desire? Does all short-term need to be difficult? No, all short-term does not need to be difficult. But if you're trying to avoid discomfort in the moment, right? If avoiding that uncomfortable feeling in the moment becomes more important than a peaceful relationship in the long term, then you're choosing short-term appeasement. It doesn't need to be difficult, but sometimes it feels scary, and short-term can be, if you need to set a boundary, it doesn't need to be difficult, especially once you practice, but it might be uncomfortable. How do you stay in heartfelt boundaries when your boundaries keep getting challenged and you feel upset? Let me read that again, Jennifer. Hang on. Boundaries are not about telling somebody what they need to do differently. Boundaries are about changing your own behavior, not theirs. So if your boundaries keep getting challenged and you keep saying the same thing and doing the same thing, then you're not actually setting a boundary. You're just cycling in drama. So if the boundary is, it doesn't feel good when you yell at me, and then you just repeat, I don't like it when you yell at me, and then you stay in the argument and you never change your behavior, that's not a boundary. That's an argument. The boundary would be, if you choose to yell at me, I'm going to choose to leave. If you choose to yell at me consistently, I'm going to choose to not be in a relationship with you. I'm going to choose to take space from you for possibly a long time. Right? I mean, I've definitely set boundaries that are, I would be happy to speak to you when you're ready to be kind. And at times that's been like a year. And at times that's been with family members, it's, sometimes been a year. And with people who I don't have close relationships with, some, or, you know, maybe we were close or whatever, they're not family. Sometimes the boundary is, if you're going to treat me like that, I'm not going to be around. Sometimes that's the end of the relationship. But I don't make people disposable. I just make it clear that we need to be respectful and kind. And if someone is not willing to be kind, well, I'm not willing to be in that friendship, relationship, interaction. But if you leave every time someone yells, then that doesn't that boundary inhibit potentially useful conversation about a topic that needs? Why does a topic need to be discussed in a heated way? I don't understand. Nicolene, why does a conversation have to be in a heated way? If a child keeps pushing your boundaries and doesn't respect you, what can a parent do? It's called consequences. If there aren't consequences as children, the universe will bring consequences as adults. It's way easier to learn these things when you're 5 than it is to learn these things when you're 25. The grown-up world tends to be way less gentle on dishing out consequences. So there are consequences. What if the consequences don't work? Then you're picking the wrong consequences. Nicolene, I'm quite curious about the, can you type in? I want to know why conversations need to be discussed in a heated way. All right, I'm going to take a 30-second break here. See if you can type in that answer. I'm going to check in on where Andrew's at.
Calling Aaron. Hi.
Hey, you're back.
Are you still on with people?
Yeah, we're still here.
No, that was hilarious. I look over and see you. I'm here with a client. You know that, right?
Yep.
These nights are important to me. I just, you know me. I'm multitasking. I'm here. So where did you leave off?
We had a question from Nicolene. I was hoping for a follow-up on it.
Hello?
Someone we don't know. If you leave every time someone yells, then doesn't that boundary inhibit potentially useful conversation about a topic that needs to be discussed in a heated way?
Oh my God, I'm not touching that. First of all, why would you need to discuss anything in a heated way?
That was what I said.
Like, really, what does that add to the juice? Does it give it more flavor? Does it give you some feist? Why can't it be in a civil way? Why do these words exist? Why does the word civil, diplomatic, open-minded, open-hearted? What
Kind.
happened?
Kind.
Kind. There are endless words. Well, I don't understand. Why does it have to be in an anxious way? It'll be right there.
Heated was the word.
Heated, better yet. I can't answer that.
I
Well,
think
tell me
you
about the
did.
person. Ask that person how. I'm asking you, person. What's the person's name?
Nicoline, hang on, we got a response from her. When conversing with an abusive person, using gratitude is taken as an insult most time and just adds fuel to the fire. Is there a way to communicate with an abusive person productively?
First of all, I never use gratitude. I feel it. You can't
Thank you, sweetheart.
use gratitude. You can
Thank you.
apply gratitude to situations in your mind, but you don't have to tell the other person, I'm grateful that you're about to punch me. Although I've done that too.
You have, but you know,
And
you're a
punch-
rather large black
that
dude. You're
you're
not a
about
5'0" white girl. So
Yes. Yes. So I would like some history on this client we're talking to.
this is not a client. This is a person watching on Facebook.
Oh, hi, person on Facebook.
So
Tell
the
me,
question is there a way to communicate with an abusive person productively?
let's use someone you know as an example we had to deal with who abused me.
Yeah. Which one?
Okay. In your family. I'm trying not to use names again. I'm
Okay,
really
well,
bad.
don't say you're not going to use names, or then you'll start using names.
Right.
All right, we can talk about any person that's abused either one of us.
Okay, well, that one was special.
It had a flavor.
It had a flavor of the month. And, well, how did I handle it, Aaron? I set boundaries right away, with him in particular.
Yeah.
Like that.
With that one, the boundary was, you don't get to talk to me like that, and now I'm done talking to you. Goodbye.
Right. Yep.
And with me, with that same person, it was, I don't deserve to be treated like this. I love you. I
Right.
care.
He was screaming and yelling and insulting me instead of me having that. I just went, here's what's not going to happen.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
here's what's not going to happen.
I listed everything that wasn't going to happen, everything I wasn't going to participate in,
And
everything
then you said
I
goodbye.
even listed what I forgive about him.
Yes.
That's
And
important.
I said,
There you
and
go.
I love you, and I love you, and I don't deserve to be talked to like
Why
this.
not list
Goodbye.
everything that you're not going that you forgive them for? Is very empowering, by the way.
Well, while you were gone, I was talking about saying I forgive you is actually a boundary,
Yes.
right? I forgive you for being a
Yeah.
total asshole.
Yes.
I forgive you for yelling at me. I forgive you for abusing my kindness. I forgive you for not seeing outside of your own wants right now.
Hey, we're on a path. Who's ever watching us on Facebook? We're really funny and fun. You should come see us at Time to Heal in Duncan someday.
No,
but
we're
that's a
closed.
story.
COVID.
Oh yeah, someday is the key phrase.
Someday.
Someday.
Someday in the distant future.
Basically, now we have a Mickey Mouse Club with a steam room and an infrared sauna and tables we can play on.
So, okay. But on that note, Andrew, have you spoken to that person since?
The asshole?
Yeah.
No. Because when I set a boundary, I mean it. That means their next move, not mine.
Exactly.
Oh, look at you. You trick question me. That's fine. No, I'm not going back there. Why would I want that abuse again? Now, here's the thing. Had that person done anything to help their aggression issues and show me any change in how he treats you, then I would go back there. But no,
Yeah.
he can apologize to me to start with, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so do you forgive him?
Yeah.
See, forgiveness has nothing to do with apologies.
Why do I forgive him?
Why do you forgive him?
Okay, you just gave me that look like you know I'm going to give a smart ass answer. So I will,
Go for it.
because I'm not him. That's a good one.
But it is, because we actually look at the situation, we look at the person, and we go, wow, that must really suck being you right now. You're
Yes.
clearly miserable, angry, don't have real connection, and are totally lost in your sense of self.
And you're driving the only person who truly loves you, your family member, your sister, out of your life as well. That was tough to watch. That
Yeah.
put me to the test.
Yeah.
That he could do that to you. I
Yeah.
can understand to me.
Yeah, because you're pretty
But
annoying.
doing it to you, I went, this guy, oh, wow. Those who are close.
Yes.
So the fact of the matter is, to answer this person's question, we have, but I'm noticing that you and I stick to our philosophies and know if someone's abusing you, my boundary is to not be a part of it.
Yeah,
My
yeah. If somebody is being abusive to me, my boundary is to not be abused.
Exactly. So there's no arguing there, and there's no, how do you show gratitude to a person who's abusing you? You don't.
You
See,
show
there.
gratitude to yourself for leaving.
You show gratitude to yourself by talking to them.
Yeah.
Gratitude is a very personal thing. Just like there's gateway drugs I talked about, gratitude is actually a natural enhancer
To everything.
to
A lot of
everything.
research on that.
Yes,
Key
we
to
have
longevity and stuff.
gratitude.
Okay, so how do we balance vulnerability with discernment?
That's why you get the big bucks. Ask me that now.
How do we balance vulnerability with discernment?
Common sense with choice making. Write that down.
Common sense is not common. We're going to need to be way more specific.
I'm starting.
Yeah.
So read it again. Question.
How do we balance vulnerability with discernment? And you said common sense and choice making.
Totally. How do you make senses come in common? It's what you know in your heart will benefit yourself and all positively in any situation for long-term consistency.
Say that again.
I don't know about long-term consistency, positivity in the heart, everything that we teach in our workshops.
Yeah, all that stuff. All that stuff in those workshops.
But it's true. It's all, we've seen it work for many clients now because we've been around for so many years, and I've been teaching it for 20-something years. So we've learned it's true.
I will add that by not representing ourselves as victims.
That helps.
Because people tend to lack discernment when they offer themselves up to the chopping block vulnerably to people who will hurt them.
You see, that's the way I feel about that person who asked that question. What was their name again? That was a nice name.
Nicoline.
Is that male, female? What is it?
Female.
Nicoline?
That's what it says.
I like that name. I've never heard that name before. I think we're touching on the grounds. I feel like she comes from a very bad relationship because of what she said.
I have no idea.
Why you ask?
Well, you just did, Andrew.
No, I made a statement.
Want to
Now,
rephrase that as a question for Jeopardy?
It makes a difference where they're coming from.
Well,
You
most
know?
of us come from total dysfunction.
Right. How old is this person, Nicoline?
I don't know.
Early 30s, I'm willing to bet. Tell us, Nicoline, or I'll leave you alone if you'd like. Maybe you've gone offline. How many people are there right now?
31.
Wow, sold out arena.
Woo!
All right, so this is what we were talking about again.
In this moment, we're talking about
Vulnerability.
balancing vulnerability with discernment.
Well, here's the cool part that I've noticed. The more vulnerable I get, it is actually directly reciprocal to the more boundary setting I do.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I've never even said that before in my life, but it's true. So what happens is because you're setting boundaries and because you are now in a phase where you are happy and comfortable in yourself, the vulnerability allows you the luxury to feel and express your love and have people feel it around you. But it also allows you the luxury of not being a typical anal pod like people around you
Right.
who are holding so much in. Vulnerability means you have freedom of expression, freedom of flow, free to be yourself. Well, you got to get by guilt and shame to do that.
That'll be a future talk. The other thing I find with vulnerability is if I'm vulnerable, then I'm just totally exposed and present in who I am. Then I'm not filtering through past traumas and grudges and all of that stuff. If I've forgiven and I'm just present, I can accurately assess where other people are at. I'm not looking through drunk goggles of old traumas. I'm just looking at, wow, they're behaving like an asshole right now. I think I should take some space.
Right.
I don't have to be like, and the other person in my life and right? I don't have to go through a whole list. I can just look at the behavior in the moment.
Which is the whole idea.
And boundaries being simple, direct, repetitive, short, concise. What was the word you used?
I don't know,
Can't
Kurt.
remember. Kurt. Succinct would be another one. Then that already has discernment in it because you've already removed the story. You're just telling people what's okay and what's not okay.
Yes.
The other thing I touched on, Andrew, while you were gone, is that boundaries are not about telling other people what they need to do differently. Boundaries are about your own behavior. I don't have the control for other people.
And that's a whole hour discussion right there.
But that's
so
huge.
That's in the word accountability, which is in our third workshop, which we can't talk about because we're not here about that.
But there's a first workshop coming up in a week or so.
Very much we can talk about that. People should do our workshops. They're amazing. And the people that live by the workshops are now showing they are amazing.
Totally are. Okay, boundaries are about my own behavior, not about changing other people's.
Good idea.
You want to say anything about that?
Nope.
All right.
Because it's just huge. Because read it again. Say it again. And I'll tell you why I don't want to say anything. Go ahead.
Boundaries are about my own choices and behavior. They're not about changing other people's choices or behavior. I have to respect other people's choices and behavior. They're right to make their choices.
The right to make errors.
They're right to make errors. It doesn't matter. I do not have the control over somebody else's behavior.
First words when we started this was about practice does not make perfect.
No, practice makes you aware of your imperfections. It's beautiful.
And we now come down to you're forgiving. You have to be gracious about other people's shortcomings.
Question from Sierra: How do Andrew and Aaron?
That SIERRA Sierra.
Sierra, yes.
Our Sierra.
If you want to call her our Sierra, yes.
Yes, there's only one of a kind Sierra. How do you know it's that Sierra?
Because it's her name, Sierra Leila Sens.
Oh my God! What the hell's wrong with you, woman? Call me. How long I didn't see you? What's wrong with you? Okay, go ahead.
So she says, how do Andrew and Aaron respect our own energetic boundaries with clients so we don't take their energy home?
Sierra, my answer is, look how I dealt with you. Oh my God, all the answers are there, girl.
And my answer would be, we forgive them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, Sierra says she misses you too.
Well, good. We'll talk. Call me sometime. Please. I'm dying to hear the news.
All right. What else? Anything else?
Yes. I have to go. You're on the last phase of the discussion. It's on you.
I'll sum it up.
Yes. Be make sure, though, that in summing it up, well, you mentioned something earlier, and I can't remember what it was. Oh, I know what it was. Well, we've covered it. We've done everything.
Yeah, we've really covered a lot.
Well, it's better when we don't worry about what we cover because I believe that we've done a really good job here.
Yeah.
But if I've heard this talk, here's what I'm doing. Sounds easy,
Yeah.
but you have to have foundations. There's no doubt about it. You have to learn about yourself. You have to learn about your denials. You have to learn about how you use your ego,
How you
and
fool
what your
yourself.
ego construct is, and try and be a more light version of that construct of ego that has you defensive and fear of vulnerability. And then you have to consider gratitude and vulnerability. All these things take time, but they're real and they work.
They are
Hi,
also covered in the first workshop, which starts
hardcore
next week.
recovered drug addict who has gone around the world, done a lot of crazy shit. But what I mostly have done is make amends for everything that I was in the past by doing good today. That's it. That's all you can do. The rest, whatever. In
So-
this moment, try and do good to yourself and to others.
And set
That's what
boundaries with things that aren't good.
Yeah.
Set boundaries
So,
to guide good.
yes. And everyone knows I like keeping things very simple. Good is good. There you go.
Good is good.
That's as deep as I get.
Yeah.
And so we find a time to heal with our community that people are good. And the ones that stay have a solid foundation, and we treat each other really well.
Yep.
Well, that's wonderful. Love you all. I think that you and I have very progressive, enlightening conversations that are fun and amateurish, which is quite quaint.
As I'm sitting on my porch.
As I'm sitting in my living room,
Yeah.
just casually loving it. I
Absolutely.
want to thank Christine.
Yes.
Thank you, Christine, for caring about the program and caring about yourself in the program.
Mm-hmm.
All right. She's also helping. She's kind of like a side producer on our not organized show.
Well,
Talk.
she's organized.
Oh, she's organized.
All right.
All
Let me sum this up. Any final words?
I have such a weird mind. My first thought, if you can believe this, is I'm glad pubic hairs don't grow on the face. What? Where did my brain go?
There's your final words, Andrew. There's where you end.
I just went off to there. And you said any final thoughts? And I went, I'm glad pubic hairs don't grow on the face. What?
And Amber has just said we both had better be wearing pants.
Yes. Oh, good point. I don't have to have any pants on.
Oh my God.
Well, whatever. Oh,
Hey, JD, boundaries are about my choices of behavior, not the control of others. Talking about things you're not going to participate in, things you're about them you're grateful for. Boundaries are simple, curt, and succinct. Yes, good summation, JD.
on that note,
And Terry says that we are awesomely gregarious story truth tellers, and she appreciates our reframing some common metaphors and analogies.
and that's Terry, hairdresser Terry.
No, I don't know who that is.
Hi, Terry. Here's the truth
She's a
about Aaron.
Facebook friend of ours. The truth
Okay.
about Aaron and Andrew.
Here's the truth about Aaron and I. We love people, we love community, and we're not perfect. And we spent years rebuilding our lives using these workshops and these philosophies, and they worked. So then I started teaching others. I met Aaron about 11 years into teaching my workshop, but I was also one-on-one with people. I never went public. Aaron has edited, and we've worked hard at training other people, and we're going to the public with the workshop. But here's the thing, Terry, is everything you see of Aaron and I is very unrehearsed because we worked for so many years together. We know each other inside and out, so we can talk clearly and succinctly about things because we've done it so much. And because we live by the foundations in our workshop, we can offer an overview on what works, what doesn't, the combination thereof, and how to use it. As far as our amusing quips, stories, and our gregarious natures,
We come by that naturally.
totally naturally. And it so happens that I met a great business partner who can handle my unique, eccentric approach to healing people.
It's
quite
efficient. I really appreciate
very
efficiency.
efficient.
I like efficiency.
Well, efficient I am. Terry, come on in and visit us. I'll show you how I read people on the
We
spot.
are doing all these things online too, so you don't have to wait for COVID to go away.
Yeah, don't
So
wait.
we are running the workshops online, video
And I
conference.
can read people
So,
online. In fact,
yeah,
Terry,
we do all sorts of stuff on the phone.
so you know,
Terry
Terry,
is in Vancouver. Hi, Terry.
okay.
And Sandra says, thank you very much for all this good information. And Jessica Sanwald says, I've never had a mental health professional talk this way and make me feel so comfortable. This was awesome. I want to come to some workshop when you open. You don't have to wait for us to open. We're open. We're just online.
It is awesome. And it's
It is.
beautiful what Erin and I are doing. And we've done a lot. We're going to the public. And yes, we're going to grow. We're going to expand.
Yes.
We've been just taking our time. But when taking our time, what we've done is establish a flow with each other and understanding of community, families, connection, based on the
I gave birth a
1,600
couple times.
odd clients that we've seen in Duncan alone.
Went to school. Went to grad school.
We've
Gave
gone
birth
to
a couple
the school.
times. You know, we've been a bit busy.
Done what it takes.
And
Bring it-
in that, the boundaries that we set is
Oh,
actually insisting that we both adhere to the long-term vision and commitments that we've made.
I'm going to say,
Sometimes we annoy each other in that.
I think we do great. We even when we're
We do
annoyed.
great, but totally. But we're like, that's yeah.
I'm thankful for existence today. I'm grateful for where my life is at in this moment. And this is good.
And
I
this is
teach
good
people that
because it's good.
because that's gratitude.
Gratitude is good. Good is
No
good.
matter what happens, gratitude is good. Never forget that, folks.
Yes.
Gratitude is good.
Let me very briefly sum up what we covered.
I'm going to very quickly say goodbye. I've been actually supposed to be gone for 20 minutes. I've enjoyed this so much. We're going to expand. This is going to become a talk show. People really like us. Ooh.
Darla wants us to do a podcast.
And I agree, Darla. Nice to hear your words, I guess. But as soon as you say Darla, I can hook up with that woman. Hey, Darla.
Right?
I can make her laugh in a minute. Okay,
Absolutely.
I gotta go.
Bye, Andrew.
Thank you, Erin, and thank you, everyone.
Okay, I'm going to end with the quote we started with, which is that boundaries are meant to ebb and flow, breathe, come in, go out. Boundaries must be flexible and have a solid foundation of self-values, self-truth, self-respect. And the only way you can do that is if you behave in that way, not having others behave in that way. You have to be able to monitor your boundaries around you. And you can only do that when you represent consistently who you are and how you operate yourself, and you do it in a sane way. That comes from learning to be happy. So in part 1, we talked about forgiveness and the necessity of forgiveness as a way to create personal freedom and let go of grudges. We hold grudges because we think that grudge will prevent us from getting hurt again. It doesn't work. It just invites more suffering into our lives. But we don't want the hurt to happen again, so it's actually about forgiveness and setting boundaries. So for how to forgive, go watch part 1. But boundaries have me stay in my own integrity and state what's okay and what's not okay and what I'm going to do about it, not what you're going to do about it. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to take some space. I'm going to disengage. I'm going to put you in your room if you hit your sister or hit your brother. It's always the other way around. Forgiveness is not about apologies, but I forgive you can be a boundary, because in I forgive you, you actually acknowledge the accountability and responsibility of behaviors and transgressions. You acknowledge it in reality. I forgive you. I forgive you for hurting me. I forgive you for mistreating me. I forgive you for acting like that. Andrew and I have set some really hard boundaries, and we've set a lot of boundaries that have really broken our hearts numerous times. And I stand by them because it creates peace. And we don't close doors on people. We close doors on futile and abusive behavior that threatens long-term sanity. Not on people. We love people. We forgive people. I forgive people first. Don't think about that too much, but I do it as a discipline. So when we set boundaries, we change the relationship and we open the door to hope. Instead of running around in a circle to nowhere of just ongoing suffering and conflict, or self-suffering and martyrdom, take your pick. In boundaries, we actually create long-term hope. We can guide behavioral changes to be healthy. And when we do that, we change the script and we actually open opportunities for change, and we actually open the opportunity for the other person to make changes as well, especially if you're not insisting that they have to make a change because you said so. So children learn through repetition. Grown-ups are just big kids who missed things learning in children. They learn through repetition too. Boundaries need to be repetitive. It's just reality. If you're stating boundaries as a victim, it's not working. Open-hearted boundaries mean keeping my heart connected to the person, forgiving any transgressions first, and guiding our interactions and behaviors to be healthier for the long term from a place of mutual respect and compassion. It's actually about light control, which we cover in the first workshop. And boundaries ideally should be focused on long-term peace, not on short-term appeasement. They need to be simple, direct, short, concise, repetitive, and they don't come with a story. One sentence to max. And we didn't get into it, but holding boundaries with yourself is about accountability. So some key boundaries. To me, all of the boundaries actually come down to I love you and no. I mean, with the people I love, with the circles of people in my life that, you know, family members, close friends, whatever it is, right? That's not okay, and I love you. I forgive you, and no. I love you, and no. Something I do a lot with boundaries is I actually affirm the positive in the person, which is what we were talking about with gratitude. Is I can be grateful for the positive in the person. I can affirm it and say it out loud. I can remind people of their positive and set the boundary, right? I see who you are. I know who you are in your truth. You're not behaving like that right now. I know you are good and you care. That's who you are is good and you care. Yelling is not okay. I love boundaries. I really do. They create peace and connection and safety. Boundaries create the parameters for relationships to grow in healthy directions as long as they're based on a value foundation that ripples good. And with those parameters and guidelines, you create safety, you create connection. And when people know that they are forgivable for their imperfect striving, you can both grow easier. So I love boundaries. I find boundaries help me know who I am in my highest, and they help the people closest to me see themselves in their highest, because that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at who you are in your highest, and I'm not falling for the bullshit trying to convince me that you're not that. Because I know you're capable. Why would you try to convince me you're not capable? Why would I fall for that? That behavior is totally not okay. Because I know what you're actually capable of. And I'll wait for that behavior. There's a boundary. Good night.